Hi there, folks. This is Adam from 8 Badge Gaming coming to you today with a new deck tech for a new week. I do apologize that this deck tech video will be a day late, mainly due to the holiday over the weekend, but we're coming to you today with something a little bit more interesting. As you can see from our title card, we're actually going to be teching the Lurantis Garbodor deck that was up in our poll this past week. It ended up being a tie between the Lurantis deck and the Sylveon Mill deck, and we ended up going with Lurantis as I'm still trying to track down a couple of the cards online for the Sylveon Mill deck, but we're getting pretty close to having it ready to go, so that might likely end up being our deck for the tech next week. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and hop on into the deck itself. Now, we found this deck idea online on the Hey Fonte Facebook group, and it was posted by someone named Jake Ewart, and apparently he was able to take this to a pretty successful record in a actual Pokemon League Cup. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this deck plays out. So let's go ahead and dive on into the tech itself. Starting off, we have a 3-3 line of Fomantis and Lurantis GX. Now, the 3 of Fomantis is the Synthesis Fomantis, as I'm pretty sure this is actually the only one in Standard right now. It's the 60 HP basic Pokemon. Its attacks include Synthesis, which is 1 energy of any type, and it lets you search your deck for a Grass energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. It also has the Leafage attack, which is a Grass and 1 for 20 damage. It has a single retreat cost, a weakness to fire, and no resistance. Now, we're not playing this mainly for the basic, we're playing it for the Stage 1, which is the Lurantis GX. And as mentioned, this is a 3 of. Now, this is a 210 HP Stage 1, which is pretty common nowadays. And it has 3 different attacks, including its GX. Its first is Flower Supply, which is a single grass energy, and allows you to attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like while dealing 40 damage. Then we also have Solar Blade, which is double grass and 1 for 120 damage, and it heals 30 damage from this Pokemon. Now, the big thing that we're looking to do is the Pluralscythe GX, which, while it only requires a single grass energy to attack, this attack does 50 damage times the amount of grass energy attached to this Pokemon. So what we're looking to do is potentially fuel up a Lurantis with multiple energy to go for either one big shot with the Pluralscythe, or to potentially win the 2-shot war with the Solar Blades, where we're going to be hitting for 120 and healing 30 from our Pokemon. That does help mess with our opponent's numbers if they're looking to hit for 120 twice, for example, with a Zoroark. Us doing a double Solar Blade, for example, will keep us alive in the face of their double Ritus beating back. Now, that's specifically if they don't have a choice band, but we'll see how it plays out using the Lurantis. Now, next up we have a 2 of Tapu Lele GX. As you all know and love, we're using Tapu Lele primarily for its Wonder Tag ability, which is when you put this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you can search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Now, it is also 170 HP basic Pokemon with a generic attack via Energy Drive, which is just 2 energy of any type, and it deals 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon, and this isn't affected by weakness or resistance. Now, we are running Psychic Energy in this deck for the Garbodors, which I'll get to in a moment, so it is going to be possible for us to use a Tapu Cure GX during the game, which is a single Psychic, and it heals all damage from 2 of your benched Pokemon. So this enables you to put a Tapu Lele into the active, attach a Psychic Energy, and then heal 2 previously damaged Pokemon back up to full. Next up, we have our 4 and then a split 2-2 line of Trubbish into Garbodor. Now we're using the Acid Spray Trubbish as the best in slot, which is a 70 HP Trubbish, and for a single Psychic Energy, it can attack for 10 damage with a coin flip determining whether or not you can discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this is going to be very rarely used, but we will get the chance to use it occasionally. I know Jake Ewart's own comments on his Facebook post did note that he was only running a 3 of Trubbish with Acid Spray because he simply didn't have the 4th. so we will take this as just the best in slot continuation. Next up, we have a 2 of Trash Avalanche Garbodor, which is a 120 HP Stage 1 Pokemon that has its main attack, Trash Avalanche, being the purpose that we're running it in this deck. Now, Trash Avalanche is a single Psychic, and it deals 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. Now, this is particularly for the mid to late game, where a single Psychic attachment to Garbodor is going to be hitting for one-shots on quite a few Pokemon. We also can use its Acid Spray attack, which is a Psychic M2, which hits for 70 and gives you the ability to discard an energy if you get heads on a coin flip. Now, we are also running a 2 of Garbotoxin Garbodor. Now, this is 100 HP Stage 1, and we're not really looking to use it for its offensive bomb attack. We're looking to use it primarily for its Garbotoxin ability. Now, Garbotoxin reads that if this Pokemon has a Pokemon Tool card attached to it, each Pokemon in play, in each player's hand, and in each player's discard has no abilities, except for Garbotoxin. So it doesn't turn off Garbotoxin itself. It doesn't catch itself in its own catch-22. But we're looking to shut down our opponent's abilities with this. Now, this is going to include things like Trade from our opponent's Zoroarks, Abyssal Hand from Octillery, Bloodthirsty Eyes from Lycanroc, Secret Spring from Gardevoirs. There's a huge variety of abilities this shuts down, but first and foremost, it's shutting down Zoroarks, being the big ability user in the standard meta right now, but it also shuts down things like your opponent's Tapu Lele's Wonder Tags later on in the game, keeping your opponent from tutoring up whichever supporter they'd like. Can be a pretty good effect overall. Now, with our Pokemon covered, let's go ahead and dive on into the actual trainers, whether they be items, tools, or Pokemon support, or rather the supporters, I guess I should say. So first up, we have a 2 of Evo Soda. Now, this is going to be used to give us the consistency in evolving our Pokemon, with our primary attacker being the Lurantis and our secondary attacker being the Garbodor. We still want to have the consistency of getting the evolutions here, and that's why we're running the 2 of Evo Soda, particularly where we're not running anything else other than heavy draw supporters to make sure we have our hand full. We're not running any ability Pokemon. The Evo Sodas are going to play a strong role here. Now, next up, we have a 2 of Field Blower. Now, this is going to be used to take away things like our opponent's Parallel Cities and Brooklet Hills, our opponent's Pokemon Tools, and occasionally turn off our own Garbotoxin by removing a tool from our Garbodor to allow us to throw down something like a Lele to tutor up a supporter that we might need. Then we have a 1 of Rescue Stretcher. Now, Rescue Stretcher is going to be used to get Pokemon from our bin back into our hand more often than not, but also give us the ability to shuffle 3 Pokemon from our discard back into our deck. Then we have a 1 of Super Rod, which is going to be used primarily for energy recycling, where it allows us to shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy from our discard pile back into our deck. Now, next up, we're running a 4 of Ultra Ball, as you're going to see fairly common in pretty much every deck in Standard. Now, there's going to be a few rare exceptions to this. When you're looking at decks that are using things like Mysterious Treasures and Nest Balls primarily, the Ultra Ball count can be discounted here. Then we are moving into our supporters, where we're running a 2 of Bridget to give us the consistency on setup. It allows us to Lele for a Bridget to make sure we can get our Fomantis and to get our Trubbishes into play. And that way we can avoid potentially having a single of Bridget prized by having the second one in the deck. Then we are running a 3 of Cynthia. Now, this is just a primarily good draw supporter in this deck. It's going to shuffle our hand into our deck, then draw 6 cards. Now, we're looking at running this over a higher count of Sycamores, which we'll get to in a moment, mainly because there's quite a few cards that we want to keep in our hand and in our deck rather than outright discarding them. Then we are running a 3 of Guzma, which is going to allow us to switch one of our opponent's benched Pokemon with their active Pokemon. And if you do, you can switch your active Pokemon with your benched Pokemon. Or rather, with one of your benched Pokemon. Now, this is going to be used where we're really trying to go for a 2-shot war here to bring up one of our opponent's damaged Pokemon to allow us to go for a KO. In the rare case where we are hitting for weakness against things like, say, Rockruff and Lycanroc GX, we might want to just promote one of those to take an immediate one-shot. Then we are running a full 4 of N in this deck. Now, this is pretty common with most Garbotoxin Garbodor decks overall, where we are ending our opponent down in hand size, especially if they take an early lead. The Garbotoxin lock is going to allow us to shut down the Pokemon draw abilities that we're seeing most in most decks, whether it's going to be an Octillery's Abyssal Hand or a Zoroark's Trade. We're looking to just keep them from drawing cards, and if they take an early lead, if we can shut down their card draw capability and then end them to a low number of cards in hand, it's going to be much easier for us to take a win. Next up, we are running a 2 of Sycamore. Now, this is a little bit lower than our other draw supporter counts, simply because we don't like discarding our hand very much with this deck. Now, we do get to discard our hand and draw 7 with a Sycamore, so there's going to be times when Sycamore is just going to be some good raw card draw power, and that's why we didn't exclude it entirely from the deck. Next up, we're running a 3 of Bodybuilding Dumbbells. Now, this is where we're getting into our Pokemon tools, and this is where we're looking at keeping our Pokemon alive. Now, this works not only with Lurantis, making sure that our minute heals off of our secondary attack does keep us alive, because it brings Lurantis up to being a 250 HP Pokemon, meaning it's going to be significantly harder to two-shot even in the face of a Choice Band. Now, this also works with our Garbodors, both the Trash Avalanche and Garbotoxin, not only allowing Garbotoxin to be active, but bringing our Garbodor with Trash Avalanche up to 160 HP, meaning that there's not many attacks that are being used in Standard right now that are going to one-shot it very easily. So this does suit us up for potentially multiple attacks if we do need to go for a two-shot with the Trash Avalanche Garbodor. Moving right along, we are running a 2 of Choice Band. Now, this is going to allow us to do additional damage to our opponent's active Pokemon. This could help us in either the one-shot or two-shot cases when we're really kind of stretching for it, but we're also looking at just getting the extra damage in while keeping our Pokemon tool count up to make sure that we're able to give our Garbotoxin, or rather keep our Garbotoxin alive. Finally, in our tools, we're running a 4 of Floatstone. Now, this is the best tool to run with a Garbotoxin deck, primarily because our Garbodors, both Garbotoxin and Trash Avalanche, have a triple pip retreat cost, meaning you have to discard 3 energy to retreat them out of active. Now, this deck is not looking to suit 3 energy up on a Garbodor. The Floatstone is going to give them a free retreat, and this is the best in slot to put on a Garbotoxin Garbodor because of the ability of the free retreat there. Finally, we're going to move on into our energy, which is fairly straightforward at 7 Grass and 4 Psychic. Now, we aren't running any Rainbow Energy in this deck, and that's mainly due to the additional 10 points of damage kind of messing with the numbers that we're trying to see with this deck. Now, that could be something that could be adjusted later on. It might end up being that we take out all 4 Psychic Energies and just run a full 4 of Rainbow Energy. But I believe that the Psychic Energy is being used here just in addition to the Super Rod to make sure that we have consistency in the energy here, and can be necessarily used to early discards with an Ultra Ball. Now, this deck really doesn't seem to be striving for the one-shots except for very late in game with the Trash Avalanche Garbodor, but we're looking to really go for the two-shot war with our Lurantis. When our Lurantis is sitting at 250 HP when we have a Bodybuilding Dumbbells on it, Solar Blade really makes us look at being the efficient two-shot deck. Now, I don't know how this will hold up against decks that are looking to one-shot us, things like the Buzzwole matchup, etc., where they're trying to Absorption GX early on in the game, or Knuckle Impact for a large amount of damage. There's still the chance that a Bodybuilding Dumbbells will keep our Lurantis alive, so we're going to try and aim for that. So I believe this deck is going to be pretty fun. It's definitely going to be a new deck for me to play. I don't really think I'm going to be able to play it to the same consistency that Jake Ewart was able to in his League Cup, but hopefully we'll be able to have a bit of fun out of it. We'll be able to show you some fun games with it overall, and hopefully you'll enjoy the display. So with that said, we do always greatly appreciate your viewership here at 8Badge Gaming. We do again apologize for the day lateness on the video itself, but we do hope you enjoy the deck tech and enjoy the game videos to come. And this is Adam with 8Badge Gaming signing off.